So I'm going to go ahead and create a new project, and it's going to be inside this folder here. So I'm going to grab this like that, and it is going to be a console app for C#. Next. And then the location is going to be there inside source. And this is going to be called FizzBuzz. FizzBuzz. PlayStation and primary directory. Actually, let's call this. Let's have them in different projects, but in the same solution. So let's call this code questions. So we'll call the solution code questions. Place solution project same directory. Now we don't want that. And click on create. So that means that we can just come back to this project and just this solution and keep adding to that project. We can change the startup location and so on. I'll just move that over there. So I've got my lav mic out the road. Okay, so this is our startup project. So what we want to do is we want to be able to draw, if you remember, we want to draw 1, 2, fizz, 4, buzz, 5, 4, 5, 6, that would be fizz, 7, and then you got FizzBuzz as well. So that's what we want to draw. So how do we do that in C#? Well, again, we use the mod operator. And remember, we're going from 1 to 100. So we want to do for var equals 0, I less than or equal to 100, I plus plus. And this gives us our for loop. And then we want to check to see if it's a 3, a 5, or a 15. Now, we don't want to check 3 first, because if we check 3 first, then if it's 15, then it's going to do fizz and not FizzBuzz. So we want to do both of those together. And there's a couple of ways we can do this. Maybe we should explore all of those ways. But okay, let's run this just now. Let me just get rid of that there. Let's do the most obvious way that I think most people would do it as their sort of first attempt. So you can say if I3 console.write fizz, that would be 0. So if I is divisible by 3, write that. If I divided by 5 is 0, console.write buzz. If, and then this is where it gets a bit kind of tricky, I divided by 3 is not equal to 0, and I divided by 5 is not equal to 0, console.write, and then it's going to be I, and then console.write line. Okay, and we can get rid of all of these up here to make that tidy. So that is a fairly obvious solution, I think, to me. So if it's divisible by 3, we want to draw the word fizz. If it's divisible by 5, we want to draw the word buzz. If it's neither divisible by 3 or by 5, we want to do that there. And then we run this, and we should get an output here. We should probably pause at the end of that. Build, debug. Can we do that over here? Probably not. Record processes enable. Okay, let's not bother doing that. Let's just do console.readline. Do the old-fashioned readline at the bottom there. So what do we have here? Well, if we go back up to the top here, we've got we have FizzBuzz, not a good start. I don't know why we have FizzBuzz there, but we have 1, 2, Fizz, 4, Buzz, Fizz, FizzBuzz, Fizz, FizzBuzz. Okay, that looks right. Okay, I think that's correct. So Fizz is right because 99 divided by 3 is zero, is going to give you a remainder of 0, and then Buzz is going to be 100 because that's 100 divided by 5 is going to give you 0. But why are we getting FizzBuzz there? And the reason why we're getting FizzBuzz there is because we're going from 0 and we should be going from 1. So that should fix that problem. So there's that first problem that we encountered. So we should have 1, 2, FizzBuzz. And that's okay. I think that's a fairly good solution. But there's a lot of ifs in there. And they all kind of flow into each other. So if we wanted to stop that from happening, so we're basically making a check here, and then a check here. So we want to try and reduce the amount of checks. We don't want to have that many if statements inside a for loop, because you imagine if you're doing this, more than 100 times, you're doing it 1,000,000 times or 1,000,000,000 times. Those if checks actually add up, and it's not as performant as you think, because the computer has to do like if you're going this way or this way, and if you're doing quite a lot of code in there, you can end up with the CPU uses branch prediction, and so it grabs both branches and then basically throws out one of the branches just to speed things up. What that means though is that bit that it's thrown out is thrown out of the CPU cache. Now this is all a bit deep, but this is kind of what your interview is looking for, is to see you trying to create the most performant and also readable solution. So this solution here is readable, but it might not be the most performant. So how can we change this to use fewer if statements? Now, I'm going to change it, and I'm not going to change as many if statements. There's still going to be if, and if, but the ifs are not all going to be run, and that's the key difference. So this one here, every single time you go through this for loop, this if gets checked, this if gets checked, and this if gets checked. So that's 3 if checks in there. So we can reduce it to possibly only 1 if check getting hit. Okay, so let's do that. So the most common case is going to be when the number is not, when the number is this. Okay, so let's bring this up here. So we're going to say if that console.writeLine, write even, the number. Okay, let me just get rid of this over here. So the most common case is this is not divisible. Okay, that's the most common case. Else, if I %3 %3 equals 0, console.write fizz, else console.write buzz. So if it's neither divisible by 3 or 5, and in fact we can actually make that a little bit easier to read. We can say not so that's a little bit easier to read. So we're saying if it's not 3 or 5, so that's what that's saying there, is if it's not 3 or 5, write out the number. If it's 3, write out fizz. So if it's not, so at this point we've done 2 checks, and then at this point here we've done not really any checks. We're actually running the next one there. So we actually reduced it by 1, but the most common case is this always executes. Okay, because most numbers are not divisible by 3 and 5. You got 1, 2, 4, 7, and that's 4 numbers out of the first 7 that are neither divisible by 3 or 5. So that's the kind of ratio that you're thinking of. So it's most likely that it's going to hit this one here. And then it's a kind of toss up between Fizz and Buzz. You could argue that 3 could be hit more than 5. But now, oops, oh, that's my control key. And now when we run it, we should get exactly the same thing. So we go back up to the top, make sure that the entries are the same. So we go 1, 2, Fizz, 4, 5, and then when we get to 15, we only get Fizz. Why do we only get Fizz? Because Fizz is divisible by 3. So that's probably not a good idea. So again, your interview is going to go back to you and say, well, how can you fix this here? And it turns out that although this might be the most obvious solution, it's probably not the best solution. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete that and go back to our sorry, I'm going to go back to that and that. And we're going to write out FizzBuzz. So if it is divisible by 3 and divisible by 5, write out FizzBuzz. If it's divisible by 3, write out Fizz. Else if I is divisible by 5, you want to write out 0. Else console.write, and then it'll be I. So although the most obvious solution is you want to check to see if it's mostly going to be that. Sometimes it's not possible to do that, especially in this one here. If you've got a better solution than this, again, comment in the notes below. But this one here is going to check to see if it is divisible by 15 effectively, 3 and 5. Well, not 15, but 3 and 5. And if so, then it's going to write out FizzBuzz. If it's divisible by 3, it's going to write out Fizz. If it's divisible by 5, it's going to write out Buzz. Otherwise, it's going to write out the number. So I'm going to run that, run there. You see we have our FizzBuzz back. So now we do, where's that? Go to the top here. 1, 2, Fizz, Buzz, Fizz, Fizz, Buzz, Fizz, Fizz, Buzz. And that's us. We've completed that task. And that is FizzBuzz. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, thumbs up. If you didn't like it, thumbs down. Feel free to subscribe and hit that notify button. And if you want to share this with friends and family on social media, that would be great as well. Again, you owe me nothing. As far as this is concerned, I'm quite happy making these videos. But yeah, I have other videos on this subject over here on this side of the panel. So if you want to give them a try, that would be great as well. And I will catch you in the next video. Enjoy yourselves, keep coding, pass on the message that coding's fun and it stimulates the mind and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.